Forbes has released a rather very interesting insight report that tells you exactly how much the Indiana Fever's social media engagements are actually monetarily worth, either on X or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, whatever. I mean, all these posts have a monetary value to them based on engagement.
The Indiana Fever's social media has just been valued at $55 million, and it's not even close to second place. Forbes dropped a report that has the haters scrambling for excuses because the numbers don't lie. While everyone was busy arguing about who really matters in the WNBA, the actual data came in and settled it in the most brutal way possible. Dio, you think one player can truly be worth this much to a franchise's social media value? Drop your thoughts below. Let's cut through the noise and talk about what just happened. This Forbes report is basically a nuclear bomb dropped on every argument the old guard WNBA fans have been making for months. The Indiana Fever social media is worth $55.04 million in estimated value. That's not a typo. That's not an exaggeration. That's what happens when you draft someone who actually moves the needle in ways this league has never seen before.
If you are a Caitlin Clark fan, if you're an Indiana Fever fan, this is something you already know. However, for the haters out there, the old WNBA fandom, many of you call them the slows, for those fans, they're in complete denial. We've tried to tell people Caitlin Clark moves the needle unlike anybody else in this league or everybody else in this league. It just sort of is what it is. Fans are coming to see one particular player, and along with that carries over the support to the entire team.
Before anyone starts crying that this is disrespectful to other players or that we should celebrate everyone equally, let's remember one thing. We're talking about cold, hard numbers here. This is an opinion. This isn't bias. This is a legitimate study conducted by STN Digital and Zoom Analytics, which tracked over 20,000 pieces of content across Instagram, X, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube throughout the entire season. They measured impressions, engagements, and the equivalent cost advertisers would have to pay to achieve the same level of exposure through paid ads. The Fever came out on top by a margin so massive it's almost embarrassing for everyone else.
Posts are worth a lot of money. They are worth a lot of money, and I can tell you right now, that's a little over 5 times higher than the next WNBA team. 5 times higher. Let's go down here. Just scroll down. The Indiana Fever's staggering $55 million social media evaluation speaks volumes.
Second place went to the Dallas Wings at $8.61 million. Let that sink in. The gap between first and second place is over $46 million. That's not a competitive race. That's not even the same sport anymore. The Fever aren't just ahead, they're playing an entirely different game with numbers no one else can touch. The Wings had an incredible year too. Engagement was up 505%, and social value increased 344%, and they still got absolutely demolished by the gap. Third place went to the Las Vegas Aces at $7.64 million, which makes sense. They're a dynasty with multiple championships and major star power. Fourth was the New York Liberty at $7.54 million, which tracks since they're in the biggest media market in the country. But here's where it gets really interesting. Fifth place went to the Chicago Sky at $6.35 million. Remember all those debates about who brought more attention to the league? Remember the arguments about rookies, impact, and cultural relevance? Well, the numbers just answered that question definitively, and it wasn't even close. The fact that the Sky landed fifth despite having a player supposedly just as impactful tells you everything you need to know. All season long, the narrative was that there were 2 players driving WNBA growth and bringing in new fans. But the social media value shows a $48.69 million gap between the Fever and the Sky. That's not a small difference. That's not a margin of error, that's a completely different stratosphere of impact and engagement.
Noticing the growing popularity of WNBA across social media, social agency STN Digital and analytics and measurement platform Zoom teamed up to quantify the league's online impact with a newly released WNBA social rankings and insight report. The research analyzes how every team performed across social media during the 2025 season and identifies which clubs and content pieces generated the most engagement, impressions, and estimated media value.
What makes these numbers even more brutal is that the Indiana Fever didn't stop posting Caitlin Clark content even after the season ended. They kept the engagement going, kept the content flowing, and kept giving fans reasons to interact with their social media. That's smart business. When you have someone who generates that level of interest, you don't take your foot off the gas. You keep feeding the audience what they want and ride that wave for as long as it lasts. The study looked at content posted between May 16th and September 11th during the regular season, and the Fever racked up 38.73 million engagements and 1.17 billion impressions. That's billion with a B. To put that into perspective, that's more impressions than most professional sports teams generate in an entire year across all their social platforms. And remember, this is the WNBA, a league that has historically struggled to capture mainstream attention and media coverage. One of the wildest stats from the report is that the Fever had a single YouTube video valued at $733, 594.1 video, not a campaign, not a series, a single piece of content worth nearly $750,000 in equivalent advertising value. That's the kind of number that makes marketing executives lose their minds because it proves just how engaged and passionate this fan base is. You don't see results like that unless people are watching, sharing, commenting, and coming back for more. For context, that one video's value is higher than some WNBA team's entire social media worth for the season. Think about that. One Fever post was worth more than everything some franchises publish combined. That's not just winning, that's dominating, redefining how the entire league must think about social media strategy and fan engagement moving forward. The methodology behind these numbers is crucial to understand too. The study used something called the social value metric, which calculates how much advertisers would need to spend to get the same level of exposure through paid media.so. When we say the Fever's social media is worth $55 million, that means if companies wanted to buy that same number of impressions and engagements through traditional advertising, it would literally cost $55 million. The Fever are earning that value organically, simply by posting content their fans want to see. And that completely destroys the narrative that the WNBA's growth is evenly distributed or that multiple players are equally responsible for the surge in popularity. If that were true, you'd expect to see much closer numbers among the top teams. Instead, you have one franchise that's 5 times higher than second place. That's not parity, that's a revolution in visibility and influence.